All right, Alexander, let's do an update as to where we stand with the US elections. Obviously, the mainstream media, big tech, the global mainstream media, I would say, not only the US, from the BBC all the way to Canada, to Australia, to Greece, to Cyprus, everywhere around the world, they're going along with the narrative that Biden is the president-elect, as is, of course, all the big tech companies from Twitter to Facebook to YouTube and Google. The media may will it, and the media may want this, and they were pulling for this, but from a strictly legal and constitutional standpoint, this is not the case. This is fake news at the moment. This is wishful thinking from their part. Now, I'm not saying that Biden won't be president. I'm not saying that Trump won't be president. But at this moment in time, this election has not been certified, and there is still there are a lot of votes that are being counted. There's a lot of issues that are outstanding, and there are very aggressive legal moves now being made by this Trump superstar team of lawyers, and we've got some cases that have been in favor of the Trump campaign. We have some that have not, but I think we still have weeks, maybe even months ahead of us. So what's your take on what's going on?
In strictly legal terms, let's remove the word strictly. In legal terms, Joe Biden is not the president-elect. It's as simple as that. By the way, it's not just the media around the world. Several foreign governments have actually been phoning up and congratulating Biden on his victory. By the way, two governments which conspicuously have not are those of Russia and China. And China is interesting because, of course, the Chinese, supposedly they're not friends with Trump. But, they look at this situation, they say to themselves, well, clearly it's not resolved. And it is not resolved. As you rightly say, there is still counting going on. There are still legal challenges going on. And I'm going to say very straightforwardly, it seems to me that all these media outlets coming along and saying what the election outcome is before we actually have an election outcome are very obviously intended to put massive pressure on the courts. That's what the objective of all of this is, because of course, judges now, and judges are judges, but they're also human beings. They're going to be very intimidated, or because they're going to say to themselves, "Well, I may have a very strong suit against me, but in front of me." And I think in Pennsylvania, especially, by the way, there are very powerful legal arguments there to be made, which we can go into in a moment. But judges will say, "Well, dare I actually find in Trump's favor, given that all these foreign governments and all the media are there saying that Biden is in fact already the winner? And do I have the courage and the integrity and the strength to actually set all this aside and open this all up again?" I mean, there will be a deluge of criticism on my head. Now, if we're looking at the Supreme Court of the United States, where all this is going to be decided in the end, I mean, it seems to me that some of the judges there, Roberts especially, clearly are not those sort of judges who will stand up for that. Now, he is not the majority now. I mean, he's not got the majority anymore, or so it seems. But you've got those other judges, some of them, Kavanaugh has been extremely unstable. We'll see how it goes. Now, can I just say, Pennsylvania, I think there is a very strong case. I think the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania changed the electoral law in order to allow late ballots arriving, after election day. I think that was clearly a violation of the Constitution of the United States. It may be that there aren't many of these actual ballots which have appeared, but the purpose of it was to just clearly be to prolong the election in Pennsylvania as long as possible, in order to allow as many Biden votes to be tabulated from as many places as possible. So I think that there is clearly a big issue about Pennsylvania, and I think it's quite likely that looking at the law that the Supreme Court of the United States will intervene and say, well, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania cannot do that. That's not their power, their right to change the state's entire electoral law. There are lots of other cases in other parts of in other states. Those will require, I think, evidence, which, factual evidence. But at the end of the day, why not wait until this process is finished? Why not wait until all of these court challenges are resolved and the Electoral College meets and the states actually declare who the winner is in a legal and constitutional way? Why all this hurry? Well, as I said, the hurry clearly is because of the need to put enormous pressure on the courts to foreclose this process before it's even properly begun.
Yeah, they want to shut this down because the longer it's prolonged and the more evidence comes out, the more the Democrats' case gets wobbly. I can imagine, I don't know, you probably know better. I can imagine that all these people that have committed this fraud, and I don't mean like the higher ups, the Pelosi's and these people, or even people in the state legislatures, or, these people that are managing the process, even the people lower down. I can't imagine them holding on longer if they feel the pressure is mounting on them, because what they've done is a felony. And we could be talking about hundreds of people. And I'm talking about these middle type of managers who maybe carded ballots in, who maybe drove ballots in, maybe people, who stamped and postmarked ballots. I can't help but wonder, once again, if Barr had come down hard on some of the shenanigans that, people like, that people were videotaping. People know the guys that were documenting this 3-4 months ago with ballot harvesting and all this stuff. We have videos of it. If Barr would have come down harder on them and locked these people up for 20 years, say 3 months ago, I wonder if these middle people would have gone along with this scheme, because if it was me, I would be like, Orange man bad, but I don't know if I want to risk 20 years, 10, 20 years in prison if something goes wrong. So I think what do you think? If this gets prolonged, aren't some people going to start to really sweat?
Well, that's the whole point. That's exactly why, as I said, we see all this pressure to declare Biden the winner before he's actually legally the winner. Because the longer this goes on, the more the evidence starts to accumulate, the more likely it becomes that people will begin to come forward. So rather than let that happen, you close it off as soon as you possibly can by putting enormous pressure on the courts and the judges and saying to them, you can't possibly allow this, because if you do, you're going to face the wrath of the media and you're going to face the wrath of the international community, and you've got to accept it. And there will be some judges who will be nervous about this. But of course, the other side of it is, if they stand their ground, then it is entirely possible that this evidence, which at the moment, I have to say this, is still only very circumstantial, but it may, the longer it takes, the more evidence starts to appear. The more ballots start appearing under rocks. Apparently that's happened in Arizona. The more things of that kind start to come out. And then, of course, we're in a completely different situation. And then the whole thing starts to unravel. But can I come back to my first point? The logical and proper thing to do, where there is a legal process and a constitutional process, as I said, the president-elect becomes president-elect because the Electoral College says so. Not because CNN, Fox News, ABC, CBS say so, and not because Joe Biden says so, but it's when the Electoral College meets and makes that decision. That's when the decision is made. That's when the president-elect becomes the president-elect. Why not wait until then? That seems to me so straightforward. We have a disputed election at the moment. We have a court process rushing these decisions out now, not decisions, rushing out these statements now in the way that is being done, is putting immense pressure on the courts, and that is wrong. You should not put pressure on the courts. Now, how has this been allowed to happen? You are absolutely right. The Justice Department, headed by Barr, has not been proactive enough. They haven't. I mean, they haven't pursued with any vigor the Russiagate prosecutions, which we talked about, and there the case was overwhelming. If we'd had proper prosecutions of people like Comey, Strzok, Page, whatever, that would have acted as a massive deterrent. People would have been, really scared about that. And not just all these other things too, but a really strong, purposeful, effective attorney general we would not be in this situation now. But of course, the trouble with Barr, as I've said before, is he thinks like a judge. He doesn't think like a prosecutor. And he was very effective when it came to closing down the Mueller investigation. But he's not been, I have to say this straightforwardly, and I mean, I had high hopes of him. He's not behaved like an attorney general who isn't a judge, but is basically a prosecutor. That's the difference.
I think this is really simple listening to what you're saying and reading all the various news articles, both left and right, try to get a general feel of what's going on. It's real simple. I think they just want Trump to concede. Yeah. That's why all this pressure and the pressure on the judges and all of this. But at the end of the day, they're just hoping for Trump to act like Bernie Sanders. And Bernie was a complete weakling. Yes. No spine whatsoever. Yes. He knelt down and he kissed both Hillary Clinton's ring and the DNC's ring with the Joe Biden primary as well. They're hoping that Trump acts like Bernie Sanders and just says, you know what, I conceded. Then all of this fraud, all of this manipulation, all of this stealing, whether it's Russiagate, whether it's Ukrainegate, whether it's Huntergate, whether it's the elections, it'll all be swept away. Hillary's emails, it'll all be swept away and forgotten. That's what they're hoping for. But Trump is not conceding. I don't think he will concede. What does Trump's dream team of lawyers have to do now? You mentioned a lot of the evidence is circumstantial, or they're picking up evidence. I heard Sidney Powell interview the other day, and she says that they are working to pick up documents and evidence and put it together. What do they have to do to make this a slam dunk case? Like, really, what do they have to do? Are we talking about documents? Are we talking about videos? Are we talking? What's the process here?
The most important thing they need is witnesses. I mean, that is really the single most important thing. I mean, if you come along to the Supreme Court of the United States and produce statistical graphs, things which show vertical lines, that isn't the kind of evidence that courts can work with. What they need is actual physical evidence of what happened. That means witnesses. That means, dare I say it, altered ballots. Let's say you have a situation where you have a big document done. And you find that all the ballots are in the same handwriting. And by the way, there's been rumors that this has been the case. That is evidence. That is actual concrete evidence courts can work with. Now, this isn't a legally complicated issue, by the way. What they need to do is get that evidence. If it's out there, they need to find it. They need to get it. They need to get all the various witnesses to come forward. Now, that may not be easy, you see, because if these witnesses now think that Joe Biden is, in fact, going to be the president on the 20th of January, then, of course, they may be intimidated from coming forward, which is why you announce the fact that he is the president now. But just as you had a computer repairman in Delaware who was angry and wasn't prepared to be intimidated and came forward, you will often find that there are whistleblowers and people like that who will come forward and who will start to question these things. Now, already there's been discoveries of problems in Michigan. I mean, there's been discoveries that one county in Michigan has changed its position. So, it's almost certain that if you look hard enough, you will find more cases of that. Whether they are enough in themselves to alter the result, The point is, what you need to do if you're a lawyer is you need to go before the court and you need to plant doubts in the lawyers, in the judges rather, in the justices, that this process is working properly. And then, as I said, then it becomes open. At the moment, I don't think they're quite there yet. And this premature declaration that we had on Saturday of Biden's victory, and Biden, premature bad declaration. I'm not predicting any eventual outcome, but this premature declaration is clearly intended to make that process of finding that evidence and getting the judges to come forward and make decisions almost impossible. Well, all but impossible. Whether it will succeed, because it is a kind of form of intimidation, whether this will succeed is another matter.
All right. Well, we'll monitor this on a daily basis, and we'll give you guys what we think is going on. I guess the main point in all of this is, you would agree we've got time ahead of us in this.
Absolutely.
If Trump doesn't concede,
absolutely,
I think that's the key.
It's not over until it's over. And trying to force Trump to concede, by the way, which increasing sections of the Republican Party are also trying to do, exactly as we predicted, is completely wrong. If the man has, if the election isn't over and he's got serious doubts about what happened, then he's got a perfect right to take the case to court. Why shouldn't he?
I agree. All right, Alexander McCurse, thank you very much. Guys, you like this video, click on the subscribe button. Please subscribe. They're unsubscribing people. They're doing everything to try and and throttle this channel down. But with your help, like the videos, share the videos, subscribe, check your subscription. Again, make sure you're still connected to us. PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar as well to help this channel out. Go to BitChute, go to ODYSEE, subscribe there as well. And of course, the Duran shop, pick up some merchandise. I think Trump should definitely pardon Assange, Snowden, Flynn, of course, Roger Stone. Just go full animal on these guys. Do it next week, Trump. Do it on Monday morning, just to stick it in their eye. What do you think?
Absolutely. No, I entirely agree with that. I absolutely agree. Certainly he should. And Manafort, by the way. I mean, I say that even though I think Manafort's probably guilty of all sorts of crimes. But it was a political prosecution. And political prosecutions are wrong by definition. I think that's an important thing to say. Now, for the rest, please do come and support us. Come to our shop. We've got all sorts of great things there. Here we have our mug with the flag of the United States, which is still waving. There's Alex with the emblem of the Russian Federation on his mug. But you will find lots of other great mugs in our shop. You will find amazing shirts, with many of them with flags of many countries. You will find embroidered shirts too, long sleeved, short sleeved, hats, stickers, hoodies, all sorts of great things. And at the same time, you support this channel by coming to our shop. And you support us also by finding us on our various other platforms, BitChute and the rest. And you come to Subscribestar, and you can support us through Patreon. You can support us in all sorts of ways. And by supporting us, we can give you more of these amazing programs. And at the same time, by coming to our shop, you not only support us, but you become the owner of the great things that you will find on our shop. So please come to our shop. Please seek us out on our other platforms and come to our next broadcast.
All right. Alexander McCurse, thank you very much. Until next time, everybody, take care.